the orofacial clefts as malformations resulting from the failed fusion of between the facial structures during the embryonic development. So cleft lip without, actually the non-syndromic cleft lip patient is that the cleft lip happens without any other developmental abnormality. So the basic what they wanted to find is whether there is any genetic association between the genes involved in the normal facial development is involved in the non-syndromic cleft lip and cleft palate patient. So it is very simple study. They wanted to find the genetic association between them so that it could help us in the future research purpose of how the facial malformations are happening. So the methodology, so the novelty is the study breaks new ground by investigating the shared genomic relations between the non-syndromic cleft patients and facial morphology. So they actually took around 6,000 European database, like people, facial morphology structures. So they took from two studies. The A1 longitudinal study of parents and children, which is the ALSP, a UK based birth cohort study, and the 3D facial norm study, which is the 3D-FN, US based study. So from all these two studies, they got around 6,000 data. So their methodology is basically like, so this was the phenotyping, the facial phenotyping. So they took 12 landmarks, 12 facial landmarks that were used to generate the facial phenotypes tested for association with the non-syndromic cleft palate patients. So they identified the 3D facial phenotypes. They actually calculated the 3D Euclidean distance between these two these landmarks, so that they could identify the pattern of how they are reduced or decreased. So nasal width, they have taken nasal lip distance, lip width, lip height, lip chin distance, and interpalpebral width also. So they have marked all these things, they have labeled it, and in this 3D facial scan, it was taken for children at around 15 years of age. So the similar scanning technology was used but on participants of various ages. So special attention, what they wanted to find was they gave more importance to the philtrum of the lip, so which is a vertical groove between the nose and the upper lip. So before moving on to the methodology in detail, there were certain key terms which we have to know, which is the genome-wide association study, which they have used here. So genome-wide association study is a research approach that examines genetic variants across the entire genome to identify associations with the specific traits or diseases. Then another is the single nucleotide polymorphism, which is the SNP, a variation in a single nucleotide basic block building of the DNA occurs at a specific position in the genome. Next is the polygenic risk scores, PRS. So PRS is a genetic score that incorporates multiple genetic markers, including those not reaching genome-wide association significance. So to estimate an individual's genetic predisposition, this score is very important for us. So they took this score also. And philtrum, we all know the vertical groove is the middle of the upper lip between the nose and the lip. And there's something they use is a liability threshold model. That is a genetic model proposing that every individual has an underlying normal distributed liability, that is the genetic predisposition, to a trait, and individuals whose liability exceeds a certain threshold will exhibit that particular thing. So this is the key terms which they have used. So they started with the facial phenotyping. Then they moved on to the genetic data collection and analysis. So genotyping, they took DNA samples from participants and they used the standard microarray technology to identify the genetic variation across the genome. This is a small short DNA sequence, microarrays. So next they made sure the quality control was good, and imputation, missing genotypes were imputed using reference panels to increase the coverage of the genetic variants. And after collecting all these, they included the statistical approaches. So in that, in the statistical approach only, the polygenic risk scores analysis were done. So the scores represent an individual's genetic liability to the non-syndromic cleft lip and cleft patients. So the association between these scores and facial measurements were tested using the regression models. The GWAS of philtrum width was performed to identify genetic traits associated between the specific facial feature. So this allows comparison with known non-syndromic cleft cleft palate genetic risk variants. Next, they followed the Mendelian randomization. Bi-Mendelian randomization was actually used in the study. This causal inference method was used to test whether the relationship between this non-syndromic cleft lip and cleft palate genetic risk and facial morphology was likely to be related together. That is, this exposure and outcome was linked. This gene is causing this effect. That is the thing. So for that purpose, they used the Mendelian randomization. Next, they went for the meta-analysis. So the results which they got from the longitudinal study and the 3D facial phenotype cohort were meta-analyzed to increase the statistical power. So this helped them to overcome the limitation of the different measurement techniques between the cohorts. And also, they also made the data, what they collected, what they had for all the research, they made it publicly available for future research purposes and also for the transparency of the thing. So it is also available. So the result using this, what they concluded was, the key finding was that the genetic risk factors for the non-syndromic cleft lip associated with the decreased philtrum width in the facial morphology. So the normal facial development, if the people are having decreased philtrum lip, it can be associated with the cleft lip. Actually, the non-syndromic, as I've told, it is present in the cleft lip, and cleft lip or cleft palate alone will be present without any facial abnormalities. So it is actually providing a direct link with the normal facial development gene itself. So this is the result which they have found, and two primary limitations were of the study were facial phenotypes were measured using different methods across the two cohorts. So actually they used the method to normalize the thing, but which may have contributed to inconsistent findings also. So it it can be one of the limitations. And the second was 6,000 participants, though the participant sample size is high, it can still be underpowered to detect these genetic variations. This may not be sufficient.